Well, let's go ahead and get started. Uh, Actually, let's start with um,
Can't hear. I'm gonna have to put them on.
yeah, we can start with any progress and any questions that folks have, and then we'll go into um, actually let me let me go through the lesson first. Let me do that. Did anybody have any questions that you needed to start with? Okay. What was that? Kanisha from Los Angeles. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Or nice to see you. I shouldn't say it that way. All right. Hey, everybody. Okay. Um, so let's get started. Good day, good afternoon, everybody. So, as we again remember everything that we do, and welcome to anybody that's new. I'm sorry, I probably should have done better introductions. Is there anybody here that's your first time? It's your first class. You just recently joined, and some people might have come in after the challenge from last week. Anybody here that's brand new? Kelly, how you doing? I'm feeling good. My nose is kind of runny, which is much better because I was coughing and with nothing moving, and that was actually hurting. But now I'm feeling better. I'm not back at 100% yet, but I'm definitely on my way there. It is good to see you. I hope y'all staying cool down there. I don't know why Texas is so hot. It's just hell, just crazy. All right. Okay. All right, y'all. So so let's take a look at where we are today. So, of course, this is the first week of July, and by now, you all know that we have the grants calendar, and the grants calendar governs how you plan your work throughout the year. So you have January, that's for pledges. February is for bank grants. March is foundations. April is foundations. You're preparing for May, which is state grants. Lots of new federal grants come out in the month of June. And then you want to be preparing for your board meeting. If you haven't had a board meeting already, you need to have a board meeting this month. All right. If you don't have, if you don't know what to do, I put a board agenda in the community already. So just follow the agenda. It has an email on what to send out to your board members and the 5 things you need to do during every board member. Um, we also have we also have a nonprofit planner for the year. If anybody, well, actually, I gave it away as a download last year. So make sure that you all are following that in line with the grants calendar. If you're doing on a monthly basis what the grants calendar says, then you'll lock into a system where you have money coming in regularly. It now you also need to include how you reach out to people. So this month we're going to be talking about capital grants, grants for buildings. I'm going to go over the requirements for capital grants. We have just been awarded a capital grant for $77,000. Um, I'm going to go over that specific one for renovating the building. On Monday, I received word from Wells Fargo. We were awarded a $25,000 grant from them. And the things that I share with you all, I want you all to do them. Don't just look at the paper. Don't just kind of sit back and listen, but think about what you can do to implement this stuff in your program, in your city, in your community. If you have any questions about how I may have worded something, why I tweaked something, when I reach out, how I reach out, any of those things that seem like it's not clear to you, this is a chance for you to ask all your questions and get the answer so that you can take action. All right. So when you think of a capital grant is a grant for to purchase a building, to renovate a building, uh, to build a building. And capital grants also include large equipment. So think about capital, and it's spelled with the A, CAPITAL, capital grant. A capital grant is for real property, anything that is real property, REAL. So when you're thinking about purchasing a building, if you want to purchase a building, if you want to acquire a building, if you want to build a building, if you want property, if you want a school or a church. Actually, last week, I wrote a proposal for a school to be given a building, and they got it. It wasn't for free. They paid $1,000, but the building is like $4.2 million for them to operate their school, a building that was owned by a housing authority. I wrote the proposal, and they were awarded the building. So when you think about this system, I'm not telling you what I hope, I'm not telling you what I think, I'm not telling you what I imagine. I'm telling you what I do on a regular basis. So during the short time that we're here, once you listen very clearly, I'm going to tell you all of the rules. I'm going to tell you some of the ways to get through these rules. But every project is different. So let your questions, so make sure you're asking your questions as it relates to your product so you can get to the finish line as quickly as possible. All right. All right. So let's start with the capital grants. So a capital project is a building project. So some churches will call it a building fund. Schools and nonprofits normally call it a capital project. And these capital raise, capital projects, capital programs, um, they are normally about 2 to 3 years long for a capital campaign. And those 2 to 3 years includes finding people in the community, connecting with volunteers, connecting with potential donors, the whole 9 yards. This capital campaign is a 2, maybe 3 year process. And that campaign is normal. It's not strange. It's normal in the nonprofit community to have a capital campaign. All right. So when you're raising money for a capital campaign, you are not using project-based grants. You're using capital grants, you're using general operating grants, and you're using unrestricted. Any grant that is program specific is probably restricted to using it for those personnel, for those supplies, for those objects, for those restricted expenses. But when it comes to a capital grant, those grants when it comes to a capital grant, those grants are set aside just for building. So when you have a capital grant, they have given you this money so that you can build, giving you this money so that you can buy, giving you this money so that you can renovate. Okay. Now they'll give it to you so that you can renovate, so you can buy, so you can purchase. And sometimes they will ask for a match. They want you to match what they have given with something that you have raised. So they might say a 50% match. If they say a 50% match, that means that if they give you $100, they want you to raise 50. So that's a 50% match. You get half, they present one half, you present the other half. Sometimes they'll say a 10% match. 10% match. If they give 100, they expect you to match it with 10. It's normal for a federal grant to have up to a 25% match. So they'll give like $1 million and you have to raise 250,000. Now, if somebody's giving you $1 million, you should be able to raise the 250,000, but that 250 does not, it still doesn't have to come out of your pocket. That 250,000 comes from what we call match. Match is a category. That category is cash, that's donations, it's sales, things that you sell. Match can also be other funding sources. All right. Match can also be other funding sources. So capital grants, no single source wants to give you 100%. In fact, most of them cannot. They're not going to give you 100% the cost of a building. So when people say, I need a grant to get a building, anytime somebody says, I need a grant, I know they don't know what they're talking about, because you don't ever need a grant. At any given moment, you have to apply. You should be applying for at least 10 at a time. there should be at least 10 applications with your name on it out there at all times. You should be consistently applying so that you consistently get answers back. But when you're going after a capital grant, they're expecting you to apply from multiple funding sources, and they want to know what those funding sources are. Even if you have not received a yes back from them, they want to know who you have applied to, that you have applied, because they don't want to be the only ones giving. Also, they will have limitations on how much they can give. That limitation is sometimes 20%, sometimes 25%. In rare occasions, it's 40%. All right. Diane, you had a question?
Yes, my question was, could you use a capital grant for demolition? If you
Yes.
already own the property, but you have to pay to demolish the property to put something else on the top of it. So you
Yeah.
can use, okay.
Yes, yes, you can. When you do that, you want to include it in your site work. So whenever you're building a property, there are different stages. There's the pre-work and the engineering, but also there's site work. You can have a category just for site work for them to just clear off a piece of property. And that site work can be covered by a capital grant that comes in. It can also be covered kind of, if you think of, let's say the project starts in July. Let's say there was a project that starts in July, this July, and you are in March. You can actually get money to do the site work before the project begins. And your local city has money, and local foundations have money to do the site work in order to prepare the site for building. But in addition to that, of course, your normal foundations, they when they ask you what your budget is and they ask you what you want to spend the money on, if you have not prepared the site yet at all, if you need to spend, 25 or 50,000 just to clear the site, then you just put that on a line item. They really don't care. The most important thing is that when people give you money to build a thing, they really want to see a building. All right, Kelly, you had a question?
Yes. My question was, I have someone who's interested in doing like solar farms. Would you need a capital grant for that?
That's a good question. So you can use capital grants for solar farms, but you can also use project-based grants. And solar farms is a good example. And this is how you do it. So what a solar farm, the project is solar energy, zero waste, reducing our carbon footprint, saving the environment, energy conservation. That's the project. And you can put all of those costs inside of the project. Okay. Inside of the project costs. You can pay for the things that need to be purchased. You can pay for the people that need to do the work. You can pay for you can even pay for the maintenance inside the project. But when it comes for paying for the land, that part is specifically a capital grant. If you were just buying the land for a solar farm, that's a capital grant. But everything
Okay.
is project.
Thank you.
Mhm. And just so that you all know, capital grants are harder than project grants simply because they ask more questions about capital grants. All right, they're going to ask more questions. The questions are not harder, it's just more of them. So don't be nervous about capital grants. In fact, it's good to go ahead and identify, even if you're not trying to pay for it today, go ahead and identify a property that you want, or a type of property that you want, or or design in your mind a type of property that you want to build or renovate, because you never know when you're going to cross by a funding source that is specifically set aside and interested in doing capital grants. I remember I reached out. I was working with an international foundation, and I reached out to a funding source and asked them about project grants. And they said, we only do capital grants, and we only do things that are $500,000 or more. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, here I was asking about small objects, and y'all are ready to cut much larger checks. So think now about what you would build, what you would buy, and all of that, so that when the time comes, if somebody ever asks you, you'll have something ready for them. All right. All right, Kelly, you had another question?
Yeah, I do. The software, does it have that those project based grants for solar farms and stuff like that in it?
It does have energy, yes.
Yes.
Energy
Okay.
conservation, solar, yes. All right. All right. So if you need a building, Kanisha?
Hey, good morning. I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I wanted to ask you, Coach, can you also for capital grants, can you include one of your line items to be a consultant to help you to go about the purchase of the building? Or, for example, I'm a licensed real estate agent too, and I
Mhm.
would offer my services as a consultant, depending on where it is, um, to help the acquisition of the property and to put the put the package together to be able to purchase. Is that
Mhm.
something that you include? Okay.
Yes. So the line item, depending on what activities, our capital grant, they allowed us to just line item a project manager. And that project manager needs to handle everything. They're managing the whole project, including the permits, including contracting the subcontractors, et cetera. And so this person might be a real estate professional. That line item, um, project manager is not always the realtor, but if I were a person that was knowledgeable about how to get this thing done and how to monitor and manage everybody, that would be a line item to pay me. Does this make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And then look, how much is your consultation fee? Because when we going after these capital, I'm gonna need to put you on one of my line items for real.
Yeah. Capital grants are, I mean, they're large grants, and so people pay, depending on the size of the project. Normally, when you plan to hire a project manager, I mean, when you plan to hire a somebody to manage your capital campaign. When I say manage your capital campaign, I don't mean just the building. When I say manage your capital campaign, this person is responsible for raising the whole $1 million, raising the 2 million. You get what I'm saying? They come in and it's their job over the course of a year to 2 years to raise $1 million and get us this building. That can be anywhere from 5 to 10%. But people don't
Thank
mind
you.
because their job is to raise the money. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Coach.
Uh-huh. So the people, like for my $50,000 program, those people are build are well, one of them is building, the other one actually, some of them are just doing programs. Their budgets are just larger. And they're doing larger things. But for those people, I'm managing their projects. Um, all right. So anyway, back to the capital grants. So let's go over some requirements of capital grants, and then I'm going to show you a an example. Anybody have any questions before I go to the next screen? All right. So for capital grants, there are some general requirements that you want to go ahead and prepare for, and you want to prepare now. All right. Number one, in order to go to get a capital grant, you need to have your 501(c)(3) status. Okay. And you don't only need your 501(c)(3) status, but you need to be in the category of public charity. Okay. Now, there are churches that ask me this all the time. And I don't mean no harm, but sometimes my people can be so hard-headed. So listen, can you have a nonprofit that is not 501c3? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. A church is automatically a nonprofit once it's registered with the state as a religious organization. It is exempt. It's religious exempt. That is absolutely true. However, that church is not a 501c3 recognized tax exempt organization. The 501c3 status is a federal designation that carries certain privileges and certain responsibilities that sometimes a church might not have asked for, and sometimes that church might not want this responsibility and that status. All right. And so if you are a religious organization and you want grant funds in order to pay for a building, then you want to make sure that you have your 501c3 status. Okay. After your 501c3 status, you want to make sure that you are registered as a public charity and not as a private foundation. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? I know sometimes I don't uh, make the type big enough. All right. So next, after that, the grants are going to require that you be at least 2 years old. They're going to require that you be at least 2 years old. Sometimes they will say 5 years.
May I ask a question about that real quick? Is that on the birth date of the 501c3 that seasoning comes in, or what determines 2 years old start date?
Yeah, it depends. Every foundation, the foundation is the funding source that gives out the money. Every foundation is different, but most of them require that you have your 501c3 for 2 years. Now, here's the loophole. If they don't specify, then you're okay.
Okay, thank you.
If they specify, you got to match it to the letter. Like they'll if it's a requirement that they're really serious about, it'll be laid out in black and white. They're not going to highlight it and make it big and bold for you, but and it'll always be in the eligibility section. Okay, always in the eligibility section. In the eligibility section, there'll be anywhere from 4 to 5, and I'll show you. There'll be anywhere from 4 to 6 bullets, and if it's 2 years 501c3 status, then it'll say that. But most of the time, they'll say your organization must be at least 2 years old. And by that, they mean your state incorporation. All right. Sometimes they'll say 5 years, but whatever it is, they'll tell you. Okay. The next thing that they will require is audited financials. All right. Now, a lot of organizations do not have audited financials. So what you do is you get either audit, compilation, or a review. Done by a CPA. Okay. The next thing that they'll ask for is budget projections, and they'll ask for 2 years of budget projections. This is the future of what you anticipate. There are some things that they will not tell you, but they do expect. And if you don't have them, it's going to mess you up and it's going to red flag you. All right. They expect that you have staff members, at least one full-time staff.
Quick question, Dr. Hackett.
Mhm.
on the budget projections, that's not necessarily including your O&M, but also your projected revenues as well?
Projected revenues, yes. So they're not expecting this money back. They expect that you have no loans unless you tell them you're going to get a brand new loan.
Okay.
So they want to know, what is your projection for the money that you're going to raise? As a matter of fact, let me show you just so it's clear. When they give you, I'm going to turn on the draw feature. I hope this don't mess up my pretty little paper. All right. So over here is the building, right? The pre. This is before you build. And this is after you build. Can you all see this?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's before you build and after you build. They expect for you to raise all of the money for the building beforehand. When they give you the money, they're expecting you're getting money from everywhere so that the building gets paid for beforehand. That's what they're participating in. The post, after the building is built, they don't expect you to be paying anything for the building. They want it to be that when you get the money, you're raising all the money so the building is paid in full. So the financials, they're expecting it to be all programming. Programs.
So essentially, when you do your projections, you need to include everything from the structure, the construction, the salaries down to like the toilet paper, etc.
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly right. And that's what they're expecting. That's what they're expecting. And the money they give you, they want to pay for it all now. Okay?
Got it.
They want to pay for all of it now. All right. I told y'all they want you to include staff. So sometimes Black-led programs, they end up trying to do more with less, or we end up just having to do more with less. Less people, less paid staff, everybody's a volunteer, blah, blah, blah. But in the nonprofit world, that does not look good. That actually looks bad. They will say about you that you do not have the capacity to take care of this. You need a paid staff person. So sometimes people say, look, I can do it. And I don't have no paid people. And I've said it too. I've said it and I've done it. And as much respect as people have for me in the nonprofit world. And even though I've proven myself over and over and over again, it always comes up. Who is going to be the paid staff to manage this? If they give you money for a building, they want to see paid staff. All right. The next thing that they want to see is a capital stack. The capital stack is a group of grants, like a group of grants and funding sources. For program grants, your goal is to find 10. All right. For capital grants, you don't necessarily need as many. More is definitely more. More is more. More is better. But a good number is to at least find five different sources that will participate in giving money for this. They don't have to have already promised you. You just have to have identified them. Okay. All right. Now, any questions about this before I go on specifically to the capital stack?
Okay, quick question.
Mhm.
So in your, I'm gonna say 5 to 10 funding sources, that can be any entity, any organization, banks, churches, social groups, anybody that has an overall vested interest in that particular project.
That's correct.
Right? Okay.
Yep, yep, that's correct. And that mixture is good.
Okay.
Different entities, different types of entities, different amounts of money, different sources. That diversity is good. A very diverse capital stack.
Coach, have you ever seen a new or less than 2-year-old nonprofit be able to get a capital grant?
Yeah, yeah, I've done it. I've done it for me and for other people. Um, you you just have to be aware of these things.
Yes, sir.
There are I shouldn't call them loopholes. There are ways to deal with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to deal with all of this. In fact, I remember one organization I contacted. It was my first year, and I asked them, and they had the 2-year requirement, and that's what they asked me. They said, "Well, do you have anything that's 2 years old?" Which let me know that they could be flexible. They just needed something dated 2 years ago.
Okay.
Mhm.
Got it.
Yeah.
Dr. Hackett,
Yes.
instead of calling it loopholes, we used to call it workarounds.
Workarounds, considerations. There are workarounds and considerations. Yes. Y'all remember, they have the money. They are required to give away the money. They want the money to be used for helpful things. It just has to be used right. And so these are technicalities that, if you have them, are a sign that you're doing it right. There are some people that, they don't care about doing it right. They just bootleg or whatever. But if you're doing these things, if you're preparing in these ways, you're going to build relationships with these funding sources, so they'll see you coming in a good way. Like, they'll know, oh, well, you're about 2 years old now. I think you're ready for us. And they're very, very nice. Matter of fact, is Karen here?
I am.
All right, Karen, just tell them your experience with this last foundation, Canon.
Mhm.
Are they rude? Are they stuck up, sedity? What are they like?
No, they're very down to earth, pleasant. Any questions that I have or need clarification and understanding, she's able to provide that without hesitation. We were going through, she asked what all we needed, and she explained what we couldn't do, but then we gave the reasons why we needed. She said, oh, I can see where that would apply. Okay, put that in there. And so it's very open. Ask, I tell you what, like you said before, closed mouths don't get fed. And so we opened our mouth and they provided what we needed.
And sometimes folks are uncomfortable. I remember I was in a workshop. I was in a fundraising training, and it was a Black lady teaching the class, and she said, she asked this question. It threw me off, messed me all up. She said, "What does it feel like to be a Black executive still asking white people for money?" I was like, "Oh God." I mean, that messed me up, because I mean, I'm at the top of my field. You get what I'm saying? And I help a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I had to still acknowledge that I'm in this country where there is a real economic disparity, and there is real white wealth in this nation that has historically been created and propped up on the backs of Black people. I mean, the industries that created this country: cotton, rice, sugar, and one other one, I forget what it was. All of that was done by slaves. Like, we built this whole thing, and it made people very, very rich, and it didn't trickle down. And so at the turn of of the 20th century, early 1900s, you have the Industrial Revolution with the families that run this country and were the head of industry, were the creators of all of the banks, were controlling all the money. The idea of nonprofit philanthropy and giving money back was not originally intended just to help people. It was intended, what they did, they were having a contest to see not only who could build the biggest buildings and make the most money. They got bored with competing with each other about who could make the most money. And then, especially between the Vanderbilts, the Morgan Chase, the Rockefellers, they started to compete about who could give away the most money. That's where philanthropy came in. That's where grants were in this country were activated in a legal way and in an official way. It's when the industrial leaders, the business leaders, decided to compete about how much they could give away. They were not really trying to change the economics. They weren't really trying to change the economic disparity. They were just throwing money out. And so I had to, like, in this workshop, I had to like sit and be like, how do I feel as a Black executive still asking white people for money? And then I had to walk through that and get to a real solid resolve that I'm not asking for something that does not belong. I'm asking for something that does belong in the community. I'm asking for it for a real purpose. I'm asking for it because it's important. And I do believe in the redistribution of wealth, that there should be a moment where those who have share with those who don't have. And I intend to be a connector. That's my goal. That's my job. And that's what I'm doing. I help people that have a lot of money get their money to people who need help. Karen, you got a question?
I do, and it possibly ties into this. So my neighborhood is an older neighborhood, right? And so there was a grant in our state that was, if you were over 65, you can apply for, but it also makes you pay for it. So it's not really a grant. The houses in the community, some of them are facing where it's like settling. So how can I assist with that as far as how can I word it? Because it's not just helping one person, it would be helping on one street alone. It's like 6 houses.
Mm-hmm. It is the same process. You just have to find a funding source. Um, a funding source that's willing to do that. One of the catches with capital grants, the capital grant is intended to build, purchase, or renovate something that the nonprofit will own. So a capital grant is not what would be used for what you're describing, Karen. A capital grant is what would be used when the nonprofit owns the thing. What you are talking about is a project grant, a program grant or project grant that your organization can receive. For example, you might receive $100,000 to renovate 5 or 10 houses. So in that case, you receive the money and you pay the contractors to do the work for Miss Ella May and Miss Sally Sue and old man Everett. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I get it.
Yeah. So you can receive the money to be the community agency that renovates their houses for them, weatherizes their windows for them, installs solar for them, installs ramps for them, redoes the fence on the yard for them, replaces the roof for them. And many counties, a lot of your county offices will have grants that they have received. They have received the grant and they are able to renovate the houses of maybe elders who cannot do the work themselves, blighted homes that might be about to be torn down or condemned. Okay. The capital grant goes directly to the nonprofit so that the nonprofit can purchase something renovate something, build something, and the nonprofit owns it. But when the nonprofit receives the money to do that work for somebody else, that's just a project grant. Any other questions about that? I might not have explained it simple enough. When the nonprofit owns it, it's a capital grant. If the nonprofit is receiving the money to do it for somebody else, that's a project. Yes, Kelly?
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand you. Capital grants are only for nonprofits, not for small businesses, or not for businesses?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Capital grants. Now, if it's a grant, it's only for a nonprofit. But for-profit companies do have capital campaigns. When they have capital campaigns, they're not looking for grants. They're just looking for donations and sponsorships. But when it's capital grants, that's only for nonprofits. Whose hand was that? Shelley?
Yes, good afternoon. I apologize if you addressed this when I step away. But how about for churches? If they need to like maybe update their heating and air because of this how hot it is, or if there's like any repairs needed, what are suggestions for churches? Is it similar?
It's a capital grant.
Okay.
Capital grant.
And the best place to start looking would the sources be the same to possibly who to look for to fund that for a church?
Yes, but you have to be prepared because it's the same thing that I teach for all churches. You want to separate your religious activity from your community activity because they are not interested in funding any of your religious activity, but they are very interested in funding all of your community activity. For example, in your city, there's right by the interstate, there's this church called the Haywood Church, right?
Yes.
So Haywood Church, they do a lot. I mean, they are a church, but they do a lot for the community. And Haywood Church asked about a piece of property that is directly across the street from a property that I own. I own the property across the street, and I asked who owned the vacant lot, and the city said they own it and it is not for sale. However, when Haywood Street asked about it, not only did the city offer to sell it to them for $1, but Dogwood Health Trust offered $1 million in a grant.
Yes, I remember that.
For them to build on that. It wasn't available to me when I just asked who owns it and I want to buy it. You get what I'm saying? But because of who they are in the community, the city was willing to sell it to them for $1, and Dogwood was willing to give them $1 million for it. And the only reason it stopped, well, you were there, you know why it stopped. Everybody else spoke, oh, that ain't right, that ain't fair, that ain't fair. But you got to know they had already worked everything out in the background.
Yes.
They had already worked everything out in the back. What had they worked out? They had worked out all of this. And they had probably, more than likely, they had already said, this is going to be for the community. These are our programs. This is what we're going to do. And neither the city nor Dogwood had any problem saying, yes, we'll do it for you. So when you think about, y'all's position, you do have a church building, but when you start to really highlight the community things that you do, you'll have no problem getting capital grants. Hear me real clear. Capital grants to renovate the building that the community programs are in.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, Granny T.
My question is, here in the city of Miramar, where we're wanting to build this new youth center, and working with the commissioner, I'm trying to figure out how to structure us being able to get grants. In other words, to get grants, because it's the city, but the community, the community center will be for the youth in the city. So how do do we need to get a whole get a 501c3 set up and set? I mean, how would we structure that?
Yeah. Whatever, whoever intends to own the building needs to be the nonprofit.
Okay, whoever intends to own the building. Okay.
Yeah. So if it's an
Mm-hmm.
organization that already exists, the big question is who's going to be on the title?
Okay.
That's the big question. If ABC Community Center is going to be on the title, then all of the grant checks are going to ABC Community Center.
What
It
if it's the city of Miramar who will be on the title? That's who
Oh,
would.
if the city owns it, cities get grants too.
Okay.
If the city owns it, the city can receive grants to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay. But
and cities
they
do
are they a
hire.
501c3? Are they a 501c3 though?
No, a city
Oh,
is a different type of entity. But there are cities that do have 501s that they work through. And cities do hire me. And
okay.
so you can let the city of Miramar know if they need my help, I'll help them. I'm good.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. All right.
but
Because like
but
I said, it's
cities,
probably bigger than me. I'm just caught up in it now. Okay.
yeah, but they can, it's actually the same process. And sometimes you don't think that a city goes through the same steps as other organizations, but they do. In fact, the grant that I'm about to show you, I
Uh-huh.
received, they gave me exactly what I asked for, but the city asked them for like $3 million and they said yes. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I asked what I
Okay.
needed, the city asked for what they needed. We all went through the same process.
Yeah, because they seem
Okay.
like they need it because they're like, oh my goodness, yeah, we need a grant. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So any other question before I show y'all a capital stack?
I
Yes,
do
I
have
have.
one. Go ahead.
You want to go first? Okay, so thinking about everything that you have taught in your last week's challenge,
Uh-huh.
say with the capital grant, say I find a piece of property that's big enough that can accommodate, say, the structure.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking outside of the box and thinking bigger, it's like the wraparound services. So say if your nonprofit, which in my case is housing, needs, say, storage also to um, facilitate all their stuff that they're coming with, et cetera, et cetera. In that capital grant, can you also include, say, a storage facility?
Yes. Actually, you're supposed to include absolutely everything.
Okay.
When I say everything, I mean everything. They want it to be that when they finish giving you this money, that you
Mm-hmm.
have everything and you won't come back.
And that overall is just full. When I say full service, I mean your wraparound services, every possible imaginary thing that you think you might need. Ask
Yes,
for it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
That is exactly. So which is why when Karen said that she explained to them what they were, what she wanted, they said, "Oh yeah, put that in there too." Their thinking is if we only give them a part of it and they still don't have everything, then the
Mm-hmm.
project as a whole is not going to be complete. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
And our money seems to have gone down the drain. They want
Got
it to be that if you need $100,000, if you need $100,000 to build your building, if you need Lord, I don't know what is going on with my computer. If you need $100,000 to build a building, and you get 80,000, then you're not going to have no windows and doors.
Okay.
And the way they look at it is they're going to look bad. They're going to look bad because even though they pay good money for the walls and good money for the floors, the thing ain't got no windows and doors, so you can't use it.
Okay.
They want to know that when they give you this money, that this thing is going to be completed. So they
Okay.
want your vision, your layout, your expense list, your budget to include everything, including the yard, the swings, the refurbished tires, the as a matter of fact, this capital grant that I'm going to show you all for mine, they approved it, and then they went back and said, can you explain to us the materials you're going to use? Because we want to make sure the materials fit the neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. They want it to be, they want it to be completed. So you don't have to cut corners. This is really not the time to try to save money in your budget. Now, if you say, if you want to raise $2 million and you only raise 1 million, then you have a decision to make. Do you keep all the bells and whistles, or do you resize it to see what kind of finished product you can get with a 1 million? And
Okay.
sometimes people do resize it down to a finished project with 1 million instead of having a building that's 20,000 square feet and empty, or 20,000 square feet and half done. They'd rather have 10,000 square feet with all the bells and whistles.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
And for the funding source, they need it to be completed, because each year they have to report on what happened with their money. They want shovel-ready projects. The closer you can get to shovel-ready, that's what they want. And because by the end of that year, once you turned in your report, they want to be able to take a picture and go out with their shovel and be in the ribbon cutting and say, we helped build this building that's going to be in this community for years to come. And they want it to be finished. They don't want the big sign, future home of. They don't want that. They want finished. All right. So a capital stack, let's imagine that it includes 5 different grants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because most funding sources do not want to give you more than 25%. What you want to ask for is 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. You want to ask everybody for at least 20%. There's one funding source I know that allows up to 40%, but they expect you to have the other 60% either raised or committed. By raised, that means they want to see it in a bank account. Committed, they want to see pledge cards, which is like by individuals signing up pledge cards, or they want to see notice of intent from like award letters from grant funders. All right. And this is how you get 100% of a building covered. You do it by asking 5 different funding sources for 20%. Okay. Let me show you. Let me show you this grant. We'll put it in the school community. How long is it? It's 21 pages. We'll do something to make it available to you. It will be in the community. But just as a quick note, we will be doing our challenge this month on securing buildings. So if you know that you want to build and need a building, you're part of it, especially if you're part of a church group or any type of religious entity. I encourage people, do not build churches, build community centers, and let the church rent from the community center. If you need a building and you want to run Black businesses out of that building, you want to do youth programs, after school programs, salons, barbershops, training programs for salons, training for people. You want event centers, anything that you want to be covered 100% by grants. That will be our focus this month. And that's it for now. So I don't know how many people are here. Oh, and I limit the number of people that come into the challenge. but I probably need to stop. But for right now, it'll be limited. All right. So these are the documents for the application. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. You'll notice proof of legal control of the property. Okay. Because whoever got this grant, it's a renovation grant, and the budget, room not calculate marketing plan. It's because this grant is specifically for things related to tourism. They want drawings, photos, or renderings, a project feasibility study if available, financial information, organizational information, list of board of directors and their affiliations, list of key staff of organization, supplemental information, letters of recommendation, additional support documents. All right. Now I know there are a lot of people that play games. Y'all, this is real stuff. It's real money. It's real life. And this is how you get stuff done. All right. And this is the application. Some people are here because you're doing this as part of your heart's work, your mission, your calling to do the work. And so this is for your nonprofit organization. There are some people that are here and you're doing this to learn as a business. You are a consultant. You support other nonprofits or even other for-profits that are in the community. When you want to do larger numbers, of course, you're going to have to make sure that your stuff is intact, your stuff is right. And these requirements are standard requirements, but there are a lot of people, even my students, a lot of people that haven't done their thing. And so I know it because we run into it. I can tell it in the questions that y'all ask. There are some like just foundational things that haven't been done, and that's okay. I'm not coming down on you. I'm just saying if you want to qualify for larger amounts of money, there are some things that you're gonna have to do. And we actually set up a buddy to help you do that. All right. You all can see what I wrote here. Well, let's look at this. Can you all see this?
Yes.
All right. So the total cost of my project is $165,000. What is my requested fund amount from the LIFT fund? $82,500. They ask for the sources, and this is normal for them to ask the current mix of funding sources that will serve as matching funds. Cash, $15,000, grants and donations, $42,000. A bank offered $15,000. Another bank, $10,000. And that was it.
So,
right.
Coach, you're saying that you showed what you had in hand and what was pending.
Yes.
Does pending mean guaranteed that it's been approved, it just hasn't been awarded, or this is just where you had applied, you didn't even know if you were going to get these grants and donations?
That's only where I had applied, and I did not know where I was going to get the donations.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It was, I submitted the application. That's it.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. So they ended up and they gave you the full 82.5?
No, they what did they remove? They removed 5,000. They gave me 77,000.
Ah, okay. So
Coach.
now, so you have the 77, the 10 from Truist, and the 15 cash on hand.
Yeah.
Coach, I had a question about the pending. Do they just want to know, or do they check where you sent applications into?
No, they don't check. They just want to know that you are diversifying. So they do not check. And pending doesn't mean you're going to get it. In fact, one of them, I think one of the ones that are pending, we did not get. Yeah. And like, you're not penalized for not getting one of the ones you applied for. Can you all still see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is, yeah, there we go. Y'all see?
That's awesome.
Now that's what we asked for, right? This project right here, this brother that created this program, you see how much the total cost is?
Mm-hmm.
7 million. See how much he asked for?
Mm-hmm.
And if you saw this guy, you would not even think that he had a $7 million project. Not only does he have the $7 million project, but he has a community garden, and the property that this thing is on was donated to him as well. This 1.5 acre that they're building this $7 million thing on was donated to him.
Wow. I know what that is.
Amen. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
It's a black guy too. Cool dude. So these are the projects. Mine was relatively small compared to the others. Botanical Gardens got 150,000. They got 92, 200,000, 2 million. Somebody got a million. Blue Ridge Parkway got 750,000. I thought somebody got a million. Oh, yeah, they got 2.9 million.
What do you think the timeline is on that? Something for those, that how long it would take? Are they each different, do you think? Or as you're just
Oh,
scrolling through?
I know that I know all of these projects. Yeah, I know all of these projects, and
So
all
just,
of them are different, but all of them, whatever, like this funding source,
Mhm.
whatever this amount is allocated towards will be finished in 2 years. So whenever grants go out, they tell you when they expect you to be done. Well, you tell them we expect to be done within a year, within 2 years. If you give us this money, we expect to finish within such time, and they'll honor that. So for this grant, they expected this stuff to be done in 2 years. So all of this money that they've allocated, they say, all right, we're allocating the money to you. You need to have the project completed in 2 years.
Coach, I want to go back to something that you said. And when I was looking at your piece where they gave you the money. So you're saying for churches, although I'm not a church, but I am looking for space. But you're saying that it would be better that it is a multi-use space. So if I wanted to have offices where my office would be, where we would have workshops for the youth and the adults, but it could also be rented out to Joe Blow if he wanted to have an event. But as long as it is up under, so it could be the Empower to Be Center. And it would be fine to have it as a mixed use space where I could also make profit if we rented it out to people.
Yeah, absolutely. The building that the city gave me is designed for profit. They did give it to me. They did cover it with a grant. I paid $1 theoretically. I need to pay that dollar for somebody. Say I ain't pay my bill. Um, but my building is for economic development, and it is owned by the city, but they did a long-term lease and they gave it to my for-profit LLC. That can be strange. Most of the time, a thing is given to a nonprofit. But yes, it is perfectly fine to rent it out for a fee, to do various activities in it. The only thing you have to make sure of is that when you make your proposal on what you intend to do with the space, write it in there. Just
Oh,
write in
right
there
in
what
that
you
it's gonna
intend to
be
do.
mixed use? Ah,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah. And I talk about this often in different classes, just how to describe what you naturally do, how to describe that in community words. And sometimes people just are uncomfortable, just don't know how to describe it in those words.
Got it, thank you.
All right. Other questions?
I have a question off topic. Good morning.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, Doc, I've been on the phone with Jerron Smith from the IRS. The name is fine. There
Oh,
are two questions on this paper, number 4 and 5. Number 4 is to provide the actual revenues and expenses for each year you completed. Of course, there aren't any because we haven't gotten started yet. But then the other part of that question is projections of your likely revenue and expenses for your current and future years, 24, 25, and 26, 2024, 5, and 6. And I think I could have put something together and just put it on this paper, but I didn't want to mess that up. If you can help in that area, that would be fantastic. That's question 4. Question number 5
Hold on.
is
For question number 4,
Yes.
those numbers need to be below 50,000. Each
Got
of
it.
those numbers, and you can do a what is a normal increase is somewhere between 10 and 15% each year. So if you anticipate 20,000 in year 1, then 22.5 for year 2, 24.7 for year 3, etc.
Got it. Okay. Number 5, do you or will you engage in financial transactions such as loans, payments, or rents?
No.
Okay, so that's just a no answer to number 5. That's it. And I think this will complete it. Just for general knowledge and everybody out there, this guy is awesome. Jerron Smith is awesome. He's a brother. He's in Los Angeles with the IRS, if you can believe that. And he's just a wonderful person. So he's been helping me and walking me through this entire process. So he says this will complete it. It's been over 6 months for me.
Yeah. Did he? I'm curious. What
Yes.
was it that triggered the audit? Because I thought it was that you named it a bank.
Yeah. But then he wanted me to write out the acronym. You actually recommended that. I wrote the acronym out. It blew him away. So he's fine with that.
That's
But
good.
number 5, number 4, number 5 are what he needed to complete it. And I'll send that to him today. I got to fax it to him. And then that should complete everything.
Sounds good. I'm glad you asked the question, even though it was off topic. Again, this is IRS, the big bad bear, IRS. But he was nice, wasn't he? He was kind.
This kid is
helpful.
amazing. He's
You know
amazing.
what I'm saying? So y'all, when you decide what you spend time with and what you spend money with and who you learn from, you don't want to just be wasting time. You want to connect with people that's going to let you know what's available and that's going to connect you with what you need for real. Because there are folks out there that are really helpful. I was raised to avoid the IRS, stay away from them, blah, blah, blah. But in the nonprofit world, when you call that nonprofit line and you actually speak to somebody, they're helpful. When they send you the letter and they give you a name and a phone number, that's a real person. Really call them. And they really are the person who read it, and they really will help you. So I'm glad you spoke, brother.
I wasn't put on hold at direct, and he picks up when I call. He
Yeah.
doesn't send it to voicemail. It's just amazing. So just wanted to share that with you. I'll get on the top of this right away and hopefully we'll get it done.
All right. I can't wait to see the bank.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.
All right. All right. Did anybody have any other questions before I go on? So tomorrow is 4th of July. I'm gonna put out a sale. I'm gonna make some things available and discount some things, but the most important thing that we've been working on is what we call the nonprofit buddy. Mark, can you share it? So all year long, I've been listening and kind of evaluating the different problems that you all have had and the things that kind of get people caught up and the stuff that prevents people from bringing in the money that they need for their organizations. And so me, Mark, our developers, and the rest of the team have been trying to put into the system what it is that you need in order to raise money. This is not grants. You already have Grant Suite for that. But this is all the background stuff that you're going to need. How do you send the emails? You need to be able to press a button and send it. The videos that you need, the themes that you need, the information that you need, the connections that you need. If you need this nonprofit buddy, if you need to boost your nonprofit, you can link and get this. If you get this, you no longer need any other email system. You no longer need any other website system. You can transfer all of your stuff to this and you can have it all in one place. In addition to that, when you want people to recognize you as an expert in your field, they need to be able to see your nonprofit at the top of the list. In order to do that, it's got to look right, it's got to sound right. And sometimes I don't have the time to explain all that. So what the team did, we just went on and did it for everybody. So we outlined these types of nonprofits and went on and built it for you. Nonprofits that deal with animal welfare, education, elders, financial, credit counseling, what would have been credit repair, financial literacy, housing, veterans, youth, women, low-income neighborhoods, community preservation, justice involvement, returning citizens, reentry, recovery. Any of those areas, we've already built it, and it's available for you. So we're going to share it here. You all can pick it up. Mark, do you want to, can you share your screen? Or can you share what it looks like? I'm really excited about it.
Yes, sir. Just give me 1 second.
Hey, Coach, can I ask a question while he's pulling that up? Is this something that someone would need right away in the beginning, or is this something that, like for me as an example, right? I'm just brand new. Would this be something that would help me now, or would I wait?
Is this Cheryl?
It is. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey, yeah. I try to recognize voices. Cheryl, you will need this for your nonprofit. It's better to get it from the beginning.
Okay.
You'll probably save because you might be spending money on something else, and it's just easier to use this. So we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. Y'all welcome Cheryl. She just came on board.
Thank you.
All right. So in order to track your volunteers, y'all remember I told you about how you can track your volunteers and describe the money you make from volunteers, the value of the hours that they serve. We calculate that for you. So all you have to do, you type in the volunteer name, the number of their hours, and it will automatically save it and send it to an Excel spreadsheet for you. All right. And go down to the next part. When you're working on your budget, sometimes people get lost and confused with how to do Excel spreadsheets. You don't even have to do an Excel spreadsheet. Right here, you just type in the name of the thing, type in how much it costs, and the system will put it in the Excel spreadsheet for you. And then you do the same for your expenses. You don't have to worry about formatting any of it because we'll do it for you. All right. So you don't have to know how to build the budget the old-fashioned way. The system will do it for you. All right, go down. if you were serving, if you were um, serving as a business consultant and wanted to look up somebody's nonprofit or your own, you can search in the database by clicking there. Or if you wanted to file your own 990, you can go there. It gives you the information on how to do it. And if you are doing this as a business for somebody else, sometimes you want to have the information right there, and you want somebody to walk you through it. And so I'm there with you to walk you through it. If you were doing this to generate more money for yourself by doing 990s for other organizations, you want to serve them in that way, and you might end up charging them, maybe $100 to $500 to do their 990. You can do that. I'm like right there with you, walking you through it. If you need to manage your donations and reports, you can connect with Givelify there. If you wanted to write your grants, of course, that's a portal to Grant Suite. Everything you need is right there. It's the nonprofit buddy. And if anybody needs it, you can use it. Now, the most important thing, Mark, you can go back. The most important thing about the nonprofit buddy is your emails. All right. Your ability to email all of the people on your contact list. It's just like MailChimp or anybody else. Your ability to email all of them is priceless, is how you communicate with them. So you no longer need a different place to do your website, to do your email, to do your schedule, to do your giving, blah, blah, blah. Everything is just all in one place. And you can really just get your nonprofit in order. Your board, you can have your board agenda, your board meetings, all of your data, all of your files. It can be right here. And the thing that makes this most exciting, which is probably really helpful for how I help you all, because we designed this system for you, anything that you ask me, I can actually just drop it into the system for you. Yes, I can explain it, but I can actually just drop it in there for you. And so everybody will have it, whether it's meeting agendas, strategies, directions, instructions, emails, blah, blah, blah. And we're connecting this to Grant Suite. So you'll have everything in one place. It's totally available for you. All right. So you want to think about how you can streamline your nonprofit so that it's not so many different pieces when you have to do it and you don't want to have to remember how to do it. You need a buddy. And that's what we prepared for you. All right. So there we go.
Question on the 990, is that just a postcard or the actual form?
This one right now starts with the postcard. The form does require, and you should be using, either you are a tax professional or another tax professional. Because when you do the long form 990, of course, you have to remember that it's all public information, and it really, really matters how you say everything you say.
Yes. Okay.
And you want to talk to somebody about that. You don't just want to write it.
Okay.
And
you have a question in the chat about it as well.
Okay.
About
go. I can't see the
it says, does this replace Grant Suite? Someone
this
asked
is
the
not.
question.
Grant Suite searches and writes grants for you. There are people that use Grant Suite, and I don't know who they are or what they're doing with it. I mean, I can probably monitor it if I want to, but Grant Suite is specifically for grants. Nonprofit is how you run your organization. It's Nonprofit Booster is how you run your whole nonprofit. Everything.
Coach, when you said this is with Grant Suite, you meaning it connects and works with Grant Suite, or it's part of Grant Suite?
Just that it's linked to Grant Suite.
It doesn't. Clarification.
It doesn't work with Grant Suite. Is exclusively for grants, but you can we have a door from, like a virtual door, like a click door. There's a button to get from, right there. There's a button that if you're in the nonprofit buddy, you can get to Grant Suite quickly.
So do you have to have both though?
Nope.
Okay. So because I have Grant Suite now. So if I get this one, I don't need Grant Suite anymore.
No, that's not correct. This one does something totally different. This runs your nonprofit organization. Grant Suite is all about grants and money. This one
Got
is
it.
all about your organization operations.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you have MailChimp or Constant Contact, this replaces that. If you have a website or a website hoster, this replaces that. If you have a 1-800 number, this replaces that. This replaces all of the other things and puts it all in one. You can run your whole organization right here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, if we got business launcher, will this connect with that, or we need this separately from business launcher?
Remember, your nonprofit is totally different. But in the same way that business launcher runs your business, the nonprofit.
So I mean, as far as like two separate systems, like logins, like can this be loaded like into the business launcher, or do we need them two separate systems?
We can connect it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can connect it for you. And everybody here, you can test it out. I think, Mark, what did we set up? A 14-day?
Yes, sir. We have a 14-day free trial for them.
So y'all jump in there and play around with it. I think Diana had a question.
Yes, you said we would no longer need, like if we had a 1-800 number, you said we would no longer need that. We would get a phone number with this system as well.
Oh, I have my phone numbers in this system. My company phone numbers come through here.
Oh, you take your existing phone numbers and you put them into the system.
I think we can also port their numbers, sir, if they already have an existing
all right.
number. Yep.
Yeah, we here, but Mark said we can import yours.
Okay.
That
sounds
y'all,
good.
This is free for y'all for 14 days. So all right. Who else? Shelly.
I have one more question. Does it do invoices?
Yes,
It does.
it does.
It does invoices.
Thank you.
Like the courses that you all purchase from me, like anybody that has purchased a course from me, you can create your own in here.
That's what I wanted to ask. Shop pay, all of that?
All of it. Yep. Shelly, Nicole?
Yes, just a question. So if you have multiple nonprofits, like we have one for the church and another one outside the church, so I need to buy two access to the program?
No, just one.
Just one? Okay. Thank
you. Alice, this is yes, this also includes your CRM for the nonprofit.
Awesome, thank you. And I had to step away for one quick second. Did we, after the 14-day trial, what is the cost of the system?
I think it'll be like something like $100 a month if you want to do it after the 14 days. Not 97, something like that. Now, the thing is, some of these services you're going to need anyway. So it's not for you to stack this on top of the other things. It's for you to use this and not have to pay for other things. Do you get what I'm saying? All right. Nicole?
I just had a quick question, Mr. Hackett. When it comes to like grant software, have you ever heard of Razor's Edge before?
Yeah.
I know you have. Of course you have.
Yeah,
but what is that? I just hear it sometimes.
Razor's Edge is good. It's one of the most expensive and one of the most complicated and one of the most well-known. Large agencies use Razor Edge to manage their donor base, etc. So Razor's Edge does not write grants. Razor's Edge is really a CRM. Their competition is another one called Blackboard and Salesforce. Both of those do the same thing. Actually, this nonprofit buddy does. All it's doing is tracking the volunteers and tracking the donors. and allowing you to put information in the system about your donors so you can remember when their birthdays are, the names of their children. Because when you're in the nonprofit world and you ask for individual donations, you might be okay asking a stranger for $10 or $20. Even sometimes strangers give $100. But there are people that donate 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. Matter of fact, last month, somebody came into one of the meetings and donated $350,000 anonymously to a program. When you're dealing with donors at that level, you really want to build a closer relationship with them. So they expect you to send them a birthday card, send them an anniversary gift, call them for their retirement. You get what I'm saying? Razor's Edge allows you to track all of that information and be able to send out things. Razor's Edge also allows you to do reports on what people give from year to year. This CRM is able to do the same thing. It's just not as popular as Razor's Edge.
Okay, it's a CRM is what it is.
Razor's Edge is. It is a CRM just like Blackbird and Salesforce.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hackett.
All right. Again, all of you have this free for 14 days. And last week we did the challenge, and there were some people that wanted to upgrade to my advisory program, where I become part of your team. As your advisor, I'm working with you for that year. If anybody were interested in upgrading from wherever you are to that plan, you'll have to DM me, and we'll talk about, just that difference in the upgrade or whatever. But we have 5 of those spots. We have 5, well, not 5, because 2 of them were taken. So we only have 3 of them left for this year. I only take on 10 companies per year. So if you were interested in that, go ahead and DM me. And I'm a bit over time. Mark, did I forget anything? All right. All right. I think that's it. All right, y'all. Well, if nothing else, y'all make sure y'all take care, enjoy your 4th of July, and have a good time. My mama said that they're gonna have a hot dog only cookout. I'm like, Mommy, I don't know where she come up with this stuff from. What kind of cookout only got hot dogs? But that's my mama. She said, well, they can be vegetarian dogs and bratwurst and, in different toppings. I said, that's boring. You need to bring some fish. We'll fry some fish. That's what we want. But we'll do whatever mama say. All right.
Sir, sorry. We have one last question from Miss Tanya Watkins.
Oh, okay. All right.
Do you know any credit cards that are best for nonprofit organizations?
Yeah. Well, I really like Truist. Truist has a good card for nonprofits. And technically speaking, any bank that gives out credit business cards, because the nonprofit is a certain type of business, then technically any bank that gives out business credit cards can give that credit card to a nonprofit. However, Truist Bank is good. First Citizens is good. Bank of America is good. Yeah. But of course, I'm partial to Truist. A lot of my clients have Bank of America cards for their nonprofit as well. But Truist gives higher limits, and First Citizens gives good limits too, like $25,000 and $50,000 for a card.
Down here in the South, Chase is also good.
Okay, all right.
Well, I guess we're up in the north compared to y'all.
All right, y'all. Well, y'all have a good afternoon, evening. If y'all think of other questions about build grants for buildings, capital grants, definitely let me know as we prepare to teach that throughout this month. All right. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.